That's right, everybody. Just exactly what you've been asking for. A white man telling you about Get Out.
I think it's what we've all wanted. Is a white person telling us, people of color, how to feel about the world.
You're gonna lean into that one today, huh?
I'm gonna lean into that because between the two of us, somebody has to, and it looks a lot weirder for one of us.
It's a little weirder for me to do it. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair thing.
Yeah.
So, do you want to do the thing? I was about to, just instinctually.
Oh, I mean, hey, you full-time MFers, it's full-time movie fans.
I'm your host, Jarvis.
And I'm your host, Michael. And we're here to talk about movies. And it's specifically one that is about you, really.
Oh, no. Yeah, I am generally oppressed by white people. That's what you're trying to say, right?
No, I'm trying to say that you need to get out now. Get out of here.
Get out.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, this is full-time movie fans. This is going to be our first thriller slash
and it's a good
horror
one
type movie.
I think it's technically a psychological horror. It says dark comedy, psychological horror, psychological thriller, supernatural horror, suspense, mystery, horror, mystery, thriller. That's what it says.
Yeah, what he said.
All of those.
All the above. Letter D.
Yeah.
All the above.
I saw Get Out not in the theaters, but shortly after it left.
Oh, no.
I did miss that opportunity. I have seen every other Jordan Peele movie in theaters, though.
Can we just talk about how impressive Jordan Peele is from being like a comedic genius in his sketch comedies with Key and Peele?
It has a very specific voice when it comes to horror movies.
Dude.
It's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be new. It's so hard to do something that's truly original. And I'm not saying that what he did was truly original, but what I'm saying is that what he did was fresh and it felt new.
Yeah.
Because again, in this day and age, you can always compare one thing to another thing that happened before it. But, packaging is very important.
I'm going to say something controversial right off the bat. You ready?
Here we go, guys.
I don't like how political other people get about his movies. Because outside of him being black and him casting black people in a movie that he wrote for them.
How dare he?
People, like, the movies are just solid movies.
Yeah, they're very solid.
They stand on their own through the test of time. And I believe, and I might be like paraphrasing from something I heard way long ago, but I believe that he did Jordan Peele did an interview at some point where somebody was like, "Well, why do you?"
He did at some point.
Why do you? Yeah, right. Why do you keep writing movies about black people? Why are you ever going to cast like a white person as like a lead character? And he said, "I mean, I could, but like, what would be the point of that?" They already starred so many movies. Yeah. I'm trying to put my voice into something.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important thing to remember is that everybody has their own voice.
Representation is very important.
Representation, to a point, I think is very important. I don't think forced representation does any good. Where it's like, oh, we need to put an Asian man in this movie because we don't have any. I think that it should be an authentic, this is the person that fits this part.
Well, here's what I would say to that. I would say, get out. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I would say, forced or not, I think it doesn't really matter to the person getting the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, blaxploitation, when they were all the rich white people were taking advantage of black people and making them famous because they could sing and just profiting more off of their talents.
Yeah.
That was, I'm sure, forced. I'm sure a lot of people didn't want that.
Right.
But the people that got the opportunities, I'm sure, it didn't mean much to them. I mean, it meant a lot to them. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, for instance, if someone was going to give me $100 as a joke, I would still be grateful.
Yeah.
Whether it was like I'm giving him $100 to help him
I
out,
understand
or
what you're saying.
or like look at this brokey, I'm just gonna give him $100 because it means nothing to me. I'm just gonna be like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Thanks for the $100.
At some point, the joke's on them because you got $100.
Yeah. Speaking of jokes,
I get that.
Speaking of jokes,
Oh no.
we're talking about Get Out.
Oh no. I will say the caveat to what I just said about representation being forced is a bad thing. I can't think of any specific like example of where forced representation was bad.
Well,
so I mean, your point stands.
Yeah.
We have
something. We have some.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Here's what I'll also make another point, just to drive in the nail further into the casket of your statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you remember, slavery was once part of our country.
Yeah.
And the reason we don't have slavery anymore is because we forced people who wanted to keep slaves, we forced them to not have them. So sometimes it's okay to force goodness into the world against other people's wills.
Okay. What interesting way around my point.
So
sure,
forced representation, hey, if we have to.
So Jarvis, what were your first impressions about this movie? Before.
Yeah.
Caveat to my statement: this is a very politically charged movie. Not like a very, very politically charged movie, but it does talk about like
politics. It mentions Obama.
It talks about how this is a very touchy subject. And so it's a really hard to explain it without like, because the movie does a really good job subtly talking about it, but it's not like what people would consider. What is it? What is the phrase when people use other people's ethnicities for? I don't remember. I'm white. I don't have to worry about these things.
Yeah,
that was also a joke. Please
showing.
don't. But it's Jordan Peele's way of explaining how it feels to be a black man around other people who are not black, trying to be like,
white.
No, I really like your skin tone's great. I wish I could have it. You know, that's the thing he's trying to explain in this movie is like it's weird for people to try to like take the things that they want from your identity and leave out the rest of it.
And I just want to say, in a greater context, a red flag for anybody who's out there listening or may hear this, if someone compliments your skin in a way that this like kind of alludes to them wanting it, maybe avoid that person.
Yeah.
In any context.
Yeah. There was a guy who did that once. His name's Ed Gaines, and it did not end well.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cultural appropriation. That was the phrase. That's what I was looking for.
There it is.
This movie is not about cultural appropriation.
We get there eventually at Full-Time Movie
I don't
Fans.
think. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to explain problems with racial tension, because that's also a touchy spot for me to be in. I'm trying to talk about a movie. That I like a lot.
We're talking about a movie, but I mean it's a part of the movie, so you're forced to talk about it on the internet. So
this was a bad idea. this movie, I'm sweating. Is it hot in here?
You know what I think is funny though? Both of the movies we're gonna do in this session, you won't see them. They're gonna be a week apart for you.
Yeah,
were your
subscribe
picks this time? Actually, I actually just it was more like, hey,
should we do this?
Here's a list.
Yeah,
and you picked Get Out. So
yeah,
and I was like, fine.
And you were much happier about this one than you are about the other one.
I don't remember the other ones anymore. I've already moved on. That's in my past. So speaking of the past,
yeah, how was your
Get Out?
How was your first impression of the movie?
Dude, I was. It's a feeling that you don't get to feel very often. I would say these days in movies is just being completely floored by seeing something new and interesting. Again, it's not like there are very few things that I would say are 100% brand new, completely unique. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But what I will say about Get Out is that it felt new. It felt unique. And the way that it was packaged was just, again, it was just so well done, and it boggles the mind, especially when you look at Jordan Peele's career up to this point. You would never expect this to come out of him.
Yeah.
And I don't mean greatness. I mean
Like a very serious movie.
A very serious movie with very serious subtext and allegories. Is that the correct word that I could use?
It's when we get to the
metaphors?
part, we discussed this off camera. When we get to the part where we have to explain the plot of the movie, it's going to be probably one of the worst ones that we've done, just because this, like, it's a very simple plot with dripping in subtext.
Oh yeah,
And
oozing
I'm not going to be able to cover it all.
subtext coming out of your eyeballs.
Yeah, this is one of those that you absolutely have to watch to get, because if I explain it, it's going to be like, oh, this is a rom-com.
Well, this is one of the great things about this movie is because is that when you watch it, you want to watch it again, and when you watch it again, you pick up on new stuff. I would say, to me, that's a mark of a good movie, is that if I want to watch it again, and if I do rewatch it, and if I rewatch it and I find something new or pick up on something I didn't before. And this is one of those movies. It's a movie with layers. And so in a different way, I would
like
say
an
more,
onion.
Yes.
Or a parfait.
Yes, like a parfait, like a layered cake, if you will. Or a swamp ogre. They have layers. And so does this movie.
Yeah.
And
It all comes back to Shrek.
Yes. Glarb can always be found.
Glarb can always be found.
Yes. And so speaking of Glarbs, it makes me feel like I was witness to something very important, is how I felt after watching the movie. I was like, this is a really important movie. And in a much better way than Predestination, it has those layers that are more subtle that you do have to think about, that you do have to pay attention for, to catch the nuanced things that he has layered in there. So that was my first impression. How about you?
Would you recommend it?
Guys, I highly recommend this movie. I highly recommend all of Jordan Peele's movies. To be honest with you, I think they're all great. Some better than others, but I mean, to me, I don't think he's. When you look at like M. Night Shyamalan, you'd be like, "Ooh, that was a swing and a miss."
Yeah.
I really don't think that Jordan Peele is yet to miss. He may not have had a home runs on some of his other ones, but he definitely connected. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To use a sport reference, baseball specifically.
Yeah.
And what about you? My more pale complected friend.
So my 23andMe says I'm 95% white. I don't know. I've never done one. That was just the way. That was just a great way to start it. So I had what? Okay, yeah, you're laughing. Was it? It was just awkward. I had every opportunity to go see this movie in theaters. I was invited multiple times by one of my friends who loves horror movies more particularly, and I don't. I don't like horror movies that much. I don't like thrillers. I'm that psychopath that will sit in a movie theater in a horror movie and just laugh at all the parts that you're supposed to be scared at. Yeah. Like, I laughed through half of Hereditary.
That is not a funny movie.
It is if you're me. You telling me that the one shot where it's like so much tension and then in the corner you just see a figure and then it goes, it wasn't funny? It's so funny. No. Okay. Well... but I didn't watch it because it was one of those movies that I felt was like way too overhyped at the time, where like everybody was telling me, "Oh, you have to go see this movie. It's so good. You have to go and see it." And I'm like, "It's
like Parasite."
Yeah, like Parasite. It's like, it's a horror movie. I'm not that into it, and I don't really want to. And then I, on a whim, just watched it one day by myself, and I was like, "Oh no, this is awesome."
Yeah,
this is an awesome movie.
Mm-hmm.
It has every aspect of like a psychological thriller that I love.
Yeah.
Makes you think, makes you feel for your characters, does stuff that horror doesn't really do often. I think that there's like two types of modern horror.
Yeah.
And it's the Jordan Peele psychological thriller. It's like talking about something.
Right.
And then the exact like extreme opposite is Ari Aster with Hereditary and Midsummer and all that fun stuff, which is just like cult horror.
Yeah.
And so I think that Jordan Peele does it better than anybody else does right now. Like modern horror. There's still like classic horror movies.
Yeah.
Things that Blumhouse does generally.
Yeah.
Like the weird Saw movies, the gory stuff. But between the two names, those two are doing it better than anybody else. And I much prefer Jordan Peele movies over Ari Aster movies.
Yeah.
Just because I like thinkers more than I like
stinkers,
weird culty things. Although I am a fan of the weird culty things too. Those are fun. So I recommend it. It's very good. You should watch it. And that's coming from me. And my complexion tells you that I'm always right. So
yeah,
I'm really trying to ham it up for this one. That I'm not the right person to be doing this review.
I mean, I guess we talk about movies, so it's kind of okay for us to. But also, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
because I am half white, half Asian.
Wasian, as we call them.
Yeah, and then kind of adopted into Mexican culture by living in San Antonio my whole life.
Yeah.
And none of those are very, very close to being African American. So
no.
And
all have their own different problems.
Right. I just happen to be a little bit darker than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Get Out. I guess we can kind of get into it. Actually, before we do anything, let's you've got it pulled up. Can we look at the freaking phenomenal cast?
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yes.
Dude, go for it.
I'm gonna butcher some names, but they're all really good.
We'll bleep out the bad words.
Daniel Kaluuya.
That's my name twin.
That's Chris, he plays Chris, our main protagonist. I'm gonna skip over the white people.
No.
Allison Williams, who plays Rose.
Very extremely well done.
Oh
by
yeah.
her. I mean, phenomenal actress. She freaking nailed all the creepy things that she was supposed to do.
Absolutely. Bradley Whitford as Dean.
Very good.
Catherine Keener as Missy.
Also in horror movies, I think I saw she did other things.
Yeah, being John Malkovich and The 40-Year-Old Virgin, my two favorite horror movies.
Yep.
Caleb Landry Jones as Jeremy. Marcus Henderson as Walter. Betty Gabriel as Georgina. Lakeith Stanford as Andre Logan King.
Oh my gosh. And he's been in a ton of stuff after this.
Oh yeah.
Maybe even before, but I mean, he was on my radar for sure after this. He's been in tons of stuff.
Stephen Root as Jim Hudson, the weird scientist man.
Lil
Ray Howry as Rod. One of the best characters. Rod.
Yes.
And then a bunch of other people. Oh, I'm being told I'm not talking to the microphone enough. I'm sorry. But tons of people that like
great. I mean, every
and at the time not really a star-studded cast, but now that this movie's done so well and Jordan Peele keeps on making awesome movies, they're like well-known people.
Yeah. I mean, I would say a lot of them you start to see them a lot more after this, but they all carried their weight. Like they all pulled their weight in this movie.
I agree.
So let's get into it, I guess. I guess I'll lead the way on kind of the...
Yeah, you watched it
hours
ago, and I watched it years.
Yeah. Shame on you. Just kidding.
This was one of those, like, I watched it, and I was like, man, this is really good. And then I watched a bunch of interviews and behind the scenes, and I still, like, hear things every once in a while. I have a book on my shelf of it. It's all really fun.
And since you brought that up, I was like, you know what? I don't usually do this. Let me kind of look around and see what some people have said about the movie. And I looked at interviews with Jordan Peele, and I found one with Quentin Tarantino talking about it. And I was like,
you did want to mention this.
I love Quentin Tarantino movies. They're so good. And they literally... his movies and some of the references, like, it's become a part of our culture. That's how good Quentin Tarantino's movies are.
Yeah. If you've ever heard somebody, more particularly a white guy, say his favorite movie is Pulp Fiction, you know he means it.
Yeah, definitely.
You liked that one.
Yeah, they probably have the poster somewhere.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so,
if college-aged, liberal arts degree, Pulp Fiction.
my real life,
Your dad? Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry to hear that.
my real life actually exists friend Clint. That's his favorite movie.
Yep, that checks out.
So
very real Clint, very real white man.
Yeah, and so, but anyways,
that's how you get your pass. By the way, that's where you get your privilege cards. You have to pass the test by saying that Pulp Fiction's your favorite movie.
That's how I got my white card.
That was
I'm just kidding.
Such a bad joke. Come on, people. It's comedy. You got to laugh at it.
Like and subscribe now.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Maybe slander me on X, because anyone's gonna look at it.
Yeah, we don't have any social medias at the moment.
No.
Hey, but we did hit 100 subscribers, so thank you for that.
Consider the next review our 100 subscriber special.
Yeah, we'll do it that way. So Quentin Tarantino was talking about Get Out, and he said that it was good because he mentioned that there's not a lot of movies made for black audiences, for black people.
Yeah.
And so not only was it something that they felt like, hey, this is for us, and it is for them. And but he said that it just tapped in some things. So one of the things that Quentin Tarantino said was, excuse me, the movie hit on points. It's like, have you ever been in a situation where you've needed something, but you didn't know what you needed until it came, and you're like, "Whoa, I needed that." Like,
yeah, this was one of those for sure.
This was that movie for I mean everybody, but for black audiences too, for black people.
Yeah,
is that like they knew everything that was going on in it. It's like you feel something, but you don't know how to describe it. You can't put it into words, and somebody else does it for you. You're like, yes, exactly that. And that's what this movie was to them. And he mentioned that. He's like, it struck a chord and it found something. So it's like, for instance, just to call back to our own reviews, like when we talked about movies and you were just kind of like, yeah, you know what? I think the way that you approach watching movies is you kind of take it as a like a retreat. You to get away from the world, to go into a different world. And I'm like, absolutely. I was like, yeah, that's true. And so that connected with me when I didn't have those words to necessarily describe my approach to watching movies or how I receive movies or experience them. So that's what this was for them. And Quentin Tarantino recognized the greatness of it. And he also mentioned that it was new and fresh in a way that, again, maybe not 100% new, but it was so good and new that you definitely recognize it as something that you hadn't seen before necessarily in that way.
Yeah.
So Quentin Tarantino loved it. I agree with Quentin Tarantino.
And Quentin Tarantino is absolutely a white man you can trust.
Yes, he knows about
movies.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Yeah.
You know what else he loves besides movies?
What's that?
Feet.
He does love feet.
So the plot of this movie is
Speaking of feet. Well, I mean, yes. So to get into the plot, it's very basic. It's boy meets girl, boy likes girl, girl has family, boy meets family, and chaos and
they want to
hilarity
use him
ensue.
for his young body.
Yeah, and then they want to steal his body,
tale as old as time,
a white person into it.
Yeah, an old white person,
white person into it. So
more specifically,
yeah. So it's a very simple plot. We start off literally the first scene is they're in their apartment and they're getting ready, and he asks the fair question: they're going to meet their family for the weekend? Does your family know that I'm black?
Mm-hmm. Very fair question.
And so, but even that first question, I think it's kind of it kind of feels bad.
It sets the tone.
Yeah, but it kind of feels bad because that's it is the current world we live in.
Mhm.
Is that my appearance and my skin color could be a problem? Has it been addressed? Like, are we sure that this is not a problem? That's the type of question that shouldn't be asked. In the
It shouldn't need to be.
it shouldn't need to be asked, right? Yeah. But in our present world and in this movie, it does. And he asked, and it's a fair question because, I mean, he doesn't know what he's getting into. He really doesn't know what he's getting into.
Yeah, and he's kind of being like catfished the entire time.
Yeah. So
unfortunately,
because he's a good-looking dude, and nobody should ever catfish him.
I agree. So
I'm sure people have used him to catfish other people. That's how good-looking he is.
Probably.
So, so that sets the tone, and then every scene it's one of those movies that everything that happens is very important, and you need to pay attention to it. So they start going, they're traveling to her family who lives in the middle of nowhere, which is also a big red flag.
Yeah, if somebody lives really, really deep into the woods, like miles into a country road that ends at their house, you should probably get out.
Yeah, get a map, figure out an escape plan before you.
Do you like that one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fill in your spot for this.
Thanks, man. I like it. I like the role reversal. And so they get to, in the car, we get introduced to, what's his name? The friend?
Rod.
We'll call him Hot Rod.
Great guy.
So funny. He's the comedic.
Yeah, he's the Key and Peele sketch character.
Yes.
Of the movie.
Yeah, Key and Peele could definitely have played the characters in the movie.
All of them.
Yes, yeah. So
at the same time.
Yes, especially Rose.
Yeah. The whole family.
So he gets a call from Rod. Rod's like, "Hey man, and he's kind of like joking but serious, like, "Hey man, that's kind of crazy. Like, you really going to this white girl's house like for a whole weekend?" And they joke, and then he's like, "Hey man, she's kind of cute." They joke around. Okay, bye. See you later. And then they hit a deer. A deer runs across the car. They clip it, and then he's like, "Oh shoot!" They stop, and he's like, "I'm gonna go check on this deer," which that actually turns into that is very symbolic of what potentially is going to happen. Deer, prey animals, vulnerable, especially to several 1,000-pound vehicles moving at 60+ miles per hour.
Yeah.
They're very susceptible to to death from that type of impact. Being a prey animal and being what they are.
You're getting so into it.
So he goes and he looks into this dying animal's eyes, and there's maybe a connection. He feels some empathy there.
I think the importance of the deer, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I'm remembering it, I think the importance of the deer is that the deer is symbolic to what has happened at the house. And towards the end of the movie, Chris almost gets hit by a car, his friend who's coming to save him. Does he get hit by the car?
No.
Okay, I'm remembering
he
it correctly.
He hit somebody with a car.
He does hit somebody with the car. But doesn't he almost get hit by his friend on the way out?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm remembering it slightly different. But he does hit somebody else. So it's like a weird like flip to the metaphor.
Yes. Yes, they did.
She says that. Okay, so I might. This is another one of those movies. This is awful for me when movies film multiple endings because I'll watch them and then I'll internalize all of them.
And
so Sybil's saying that she remembers hearing that they filmed multiple endings.
They did.
And you're saying they did, which means that after I watched the movie, I watched a bunch of behind the scenes, deleted scenes, extras,
and maybe
stuff,
somebody said something about that.
It was probably there. But anyways, so the way that they're trying to fit the metaphor is that he is ending the cycle by
there's more to that. Towards the end.
Yeah.
Symbolism there. So then I don't know if I think they call a cop or a cop shows up to follow a report or something like that. And Rose is she's a little sneaky little lady.
Yeah.
She's she seems like a great girlfriend.
Sure.
At least a pretty one.
I don't know if I'd agree with that one,
she definitely sets it up. Hey, look, my family is not an issue. She mentions my dad's gonna mention that he loved Obama and he would have voted for him for a third time. And in this case, the police takes the report, and she's like, and the police officer is, hey, he's like, can I get your ID as well? And she jumps in and is like, why do you need his ID? Is it because he's black? Is that why, basically? And he's like, no, it's not like that. He's like, and she's like, no, you don't. And she talks to Chris. You don't have to show him your ID. And so it's like, wow, dude.
And Chris is sitting there like, I'm just gonna do what he's asking.
Hey, you know what?
I'm just gonna follow the law.
And she's very like, wow, I can't believe that guy. So racist. So how dare he? And then they show up at the house, and they pull up, and it's a nice house. It's definitely reminiscent of like a plantation house.
So there's a place up in Bernie called Kendall Point. It used to be called Kendall Plantation. It looks exactly the same as that
house,
and that's where a lot of people get married around here. So I've been there a couple of times.
Probably
and
not
every
a lot
time I'm like, actually, funny story. I went to go shoot a wedding with my friend Julian.
Don't ever shoot a wedding.
Who is black. And so we went to go shoot my best friend's wedding at Kendall Point.
Photos.
And I brought Julian, and Julian walked in, saw like 30 or 40 really old, rich white people, and went, I watched Get Out, man. I know what you're doing to me. and that's the kind of place that was.
And I'll just make this point since you've said that, as someone who is only half white but doesn't look white, I will say that I can relate in the sense that if I'm in a place that's like majority of white people, I do feel out of place and weird.
Yeah,
I do. And I remember being at a get together once, and as soon as the first black guy showed up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, somebody to talk to."
No, it's okay. Once they play Cupid Shuffle, just get out there and dance, and they'll accept you just fine.
Oh my gosh! So, dude, that just reminded me. There was a girl at the
Boot Scoot and Boogie. Both of those.
There was a girl at that get together that tried to claim Black History Month because it was her birthday month in front of my black friend, and I was like, no. I was like, absolutely not. That is not the move. So, anyways,
we got off track a little bit.
You know what? When she said that, you know what I said to her? I said, "Get out."
Nice.
Yeah. So,
nice. Can we put in the comments how many times Jarvis makes that joke specifically?
Oh my gosh, not enough.
He did it 3 times before we started shooting. If you want to add that to your counter.
Yeah. So
from the point where he walked in.
It was the first thing I said to him when he opened the door.
Yeah.
I said, "Get out."
Yeah.
He's like, "This is my house, you person of color, you."
And then we kissed a lot. Sorry, Sybil.
She was in the other room. In the other room.
Who was I?
And so, man, I'm not moving through this movie very fast.
No, you are not. You gotta.
Yeah, I gotta pick up the pace. So
I gotta teach you plot beats.
I know
and plot points.
I just get. I'm the details guy. I get stuck up on the details.
You do.
So basically, she meets the family. They're a little bit weird because the dad says, "Hey,"
they're very into him being black.
They're very,
and it's like uncomfortably into it.
Yeah, they bring it up more than anybody ever should.
Right.
They talk about how great and
like to the point where if you're watching this like for the first time out of context of anything, you probably feel like they're trying to hammer in a point a little too much. Because I did hear some people say that, but the point is that they're trying to set the tone about how uncomfortably into him being black they are.
Well, and it brings a point of...
It's not like a political thing where they're like, oh, white people do this. It's very specifically them.
Well, it's...
Very specific.
It's a point of, like, racism can be expressed in a positive way too. You can be
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like it's that
That's
whole
a great
like,
way to phrase it.
I don't see color. I have black
Yeah.
friends, and it's like that sounds like a positive thing, but it's
But
still
you're
isolating.
saying weird things.
Yeah, but you're still isolating a person based off of their color and their race.
yeah.
So
Hey, don't worry. I'm 1/28th black.
yeah, something like that.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Cool,
Thanks
man.
for telling me, I guess.
Yeah, and so the family's doing the weird thing, and he's just kind of making the best of it. I mean, he's lived his whole life dealing with this kind of stuff. So, but he's also, this is different. This is his girlfriend. He wants to make a good impression. They mention so you meet the groundskeeper and who's a black man. He's standing in the yard when they show up, and then they have I want to say maybe like a, did you say housekeeper, who is also she's also black.
Well, that's what they say they are,
right?
but we learn later that that's not the case.
And throughout this whole time, you get the feeling that something's off, but you can't quite.
And you never actually see them doing anything either.
Right?
They're just kind of around.
Yeah, but their mannerisms and their behavior and the way they talk is off. It's weird the way they dress. So you definitely are. He's so good at making us feel what Chris is feeling.
Yes.
It's because at first you're like, okay, this is off, but you're not quite sure what it is.
Yeah. Or it's very like ham-fisted, like, oh, they're weird racists, but it's not. It's just the uncomfortable.
Oh my!
What's happening?
I can't believe we forgot it wasn't the first scene is that they were talking about getting that one good dude was kidnapped.
Yeah,
the
that's
black
right.
Dude,
and then we see him immediately.
He was walking at night in the street. A car is driving past him.
Yeah.
Turns around and he's like,
"You're right.
Nope.
This is super important because Chris recognizes him."
Yeah, and he's like, "Nope, not today. I'm gonna just walk the other way." He's talking to himself.
Yep.
And he's like, "Nope," and he starts to cross the street. He looks back. Doors open. Nobody, and then all of a sudden he's kidnapped. Okay,
So we see the groundskeeper and the housekeeper, and Chris is like, "You look familiar," because that's him.
Well, yeah,
That's the guy from the beginning.
No, the groundskeeper is.
Oh, that's that's later. That's when they have the big party.
But it's funny because he tries to throw some camaraderie towards the black people, and they don't respond in the
does
way.
not land.
Yeah, because we'll find out later. But anyway, so they're going through this. They mention, hey, we're having this party this weekend. We do it every year, and
so
this
crazy.
weekend is
It's happening this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend is the thing. So they're there for that. All the people arrive.
They're all awkwardly into Chris.
They're all very
very awkwardly into
they're
Chris.
all very excited.
Like,
to
wow,
meet him.
Are you very fast? Can you run very fast?
Oh, you're so strong. You know what I mean? And then there was actually an Asian dude in there too. So Asians count as white. So I would say, well, I'm not gonna high five for that.
I was gonna say, congratulations, brother, you made it.
That one. You almost got me to high five you for whiteness on the internet. Not this time.
Next time, guys. We almost got him.
Yeah, and so, but the Asian guy is like, how does it feel to be? Do you feel like being black in our current, cultural state is a positive or negative? And he's like, hey, you know what? That's where we see the guy who got kidnapped, and he's like, hey, you know what? I'll let my homie over here handle it, and he doesn't respond. He's like, hey, he just gives a kind of a deflective answer and doesn't really answer the question. And people are just talking about him weird. They're all white and some are Asian. And then, and another thing that's noticed is they all arrived in black cars. And one of the first times you're like, you get the feeling like, okay, something absolutely nuts is happening. I think this is before the freak out.
Yeah.
He goes inside to check his phone. He goes upstairs. It's off the charger. Yeah. And everybody who's downstairs is talking. As soon as he goes upstairs out of sight, they all stop talking. And they all listen for him. You're like, what the freak is going on? He comes down. He tries to, he goes to the place
trying to find someone to talk to, yeah.
He goes to the guy who he remembers later on is someone he knows.
Yeah.
And he tries to connect with them, and he's just like, no, he's just not connecting. He takes a photo of him, and
and sends it to Rod.
Right, but also he freaks out.
Yeah,
because for a
of the
second,
Flash.
a second, he's that's where we hear the title. He says, "Get out," and he's really trying to warn him, like, you need to get out of here. This is not safe for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what he meant. What it felt like was he took a picture of the dude and he freaked out, telling him to leave.
And that's what they told him was the story. One part that we missed is the mom. She's a psychotherapist or something like that.
Yeah. And she can hypnotize people.
She can hypnotize people. She references like that she can do that for him because Chris is a smoker, and they're like smoking is so bad for you, and there's ulterior motives in that too. So she does her hypnosis thing on what's the character's name in the movie? I can't remember.
Which one?
The guy that was body snatched.
The guy that was body snatched.
Yeah, what's his character's name? While you look that up, she resets
Walter?
Walter?
No, that's not right.
No.
Talking about Andre?
Right here.
Andre.
She resets him, and then they go back to the party.
Yeah.
And then, like, he's like, you know what? I think I need to leave. I'm not feeling well and stuff like that. And then he goes in to talk to Rose. Mm-hmm. And outside, they're having a literal silent auction.
Yes, they
to
are.
auction Chris off.
Yeah. His
like,
body. Well, I guess, it's him.
So
it's him.
Obviously, that's referencing slavery and like selling people, and that's what they're doing. And again, so you're just like, oh my gosh,
but not for what you think they're selling him off for. They're the old white people want to live in a young, strong body, and so they're getting like Freaky Friday, basically.
Yeah.
But like in like the worst way. No Lindsay Lohan's, no
magical things. It's very
no fortune cookies.
Yeah,
it's all bad. It's just all bad.
Yeah, very bad. And then after that, so he's definitely starting to feel very uncomfortable. He's like, you know what? I forget what happens. So I believe at one point he goes. Man, I might be messing up the scenes, but he goes out for a smoke, and he sees the groundskeeper
just running,
bolting towards him, like extremely like robotic-like, but it's very scary. Coming out of the darkness, just coming straight at him, and he freaks out. And he turns away at the last minute. He freaks out. He also sees the housekeeper in the window. She's just looking at her reflection in the mirror, but again, he kind of waves, just like doesn't get anything back, and so he has his smoke because he's had a stressful day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
things are not adding
like you
up.
do sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and so he goes in, and her mom is there and says, smoking is bad for you. She's like, you shouldn't smoke. That's my daughter that you're dating. So she seems very defensive about it. And she says, well, hey, let me help you with that. I can sit down. She basically
forces him into it.
And let's do that. And she starts talking about him. We learn some of his backstory about his mom, that he was a kid watching cartoons. His mom was like murdered or something, like in the house.
Yeah.
And he didn't move. He didn't get up. He didn't call the cops to save her.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guilt, but it was repressed. That comes out. She does her whole tea thing, and he goes into what's called a sunken place. So it's basically I guess a recess in his mind where he can't do anything.
Yeah, it's like a subconscious space where he can't control his body.
He can't control his body.
He's like a paralyzed.
Yes.
In his own body.
Yeah, his mind is basically trapped, cannot control his body. That's an important thing.
Which is a very deep metaphor that would take me like probably 20 minutes to explain, and me and Jarvis together like an hour longer to explain.
Which we don't have, and I'm trying to get through this. So,
but it's very smart.
We're gonna try. We're gonna talk about it. And then I think he gets to a point where Because he talks to the guy before the silent auction, the guy that's blind, because he wants to see, he wants to do his art again. He does talk to him, and then at some point he goes upstairs and he finds in the closet a box of photos.
Yep.
How about you describe what's going on with these photos?
It's his girlfriend with just a bunch of other black dudes. And some of them are people he's seen very recently.
And at least one of them is a female.
Yep.
So
that looks very suspiciously exactly like the housekeeper.
Yeah. And also,
this is where it kind of like all clicks, and you're like,
yeah,
"Oh, this is fucked up."
I mean, what could you even imagine what goes through your mind? You see your girlfriend with a box of photos with all these other, like, okay, you're like, okay, maybe these are exes, but then they're all black.
And you also see like people that you see currently, and you're like, okay, there's a problem here.
Yeah, and he says, you know what? Rose is like, hey, everything okay? He's like, yeah, I think it's time to go. Let's get the keys. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, and he's very like exacerbated about it.
Yes, he's like,
yeah,
let's go.
We're leaving.
They go downstairs. She's like, hey, you know what? Instead of looking for the keys up here, let's move on towards the car, and you find the keys. And mom and dad are downstairs, and so is the weird brother, which we haven't mentioned yet. He's weirdly aggressive, but anyways, he's down there with a lacrosse stick. Yep. I don't know what they call them.
Sorry, lacrosse players.
Yeah, sorry.
We're not going to look it up and correct it.
Yeah, we don't care about that sport. So and they keep talking. They're just talking to him, saying weird stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Rose, like, where are the keys? You know what I mean?" And then she's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then she's like, "They're here." And then the brother attacks.
Yeah.
And they literally knock him out. He wakes up tied to a chair
in the basement.
In front of a TV, and there's actually a deer mounted on the wall in front of him, literally looking right at him.
Yep.
The TV switches on, and it's a little video of the Armitage family. So,
and what they do,
Grandpa and Grandma Armitage, they explain that, hey, like, I don't know, the coagula. That's all I remember.
Yeah, they go, hey, we're the body snatchers, and we're snatching your body.
We're doing it now. It's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
And so then the blonde guy comes back on. He's like, hey, we need to talk about this. You can ask me anything. And he's like, yeah. Basically, I'm going to be in your body, and you're going to have no control. I'm the new you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So he basically gets put back to sleep. And then he's basically like freaking out, trying to get out. He's scratching the chair, which that's also a metaphor. There's cotton in it. He's pulling the cotton out. He finds a way to get enough to block his ears so that he can not be hypnotized again. Yeah. The brother comes back in when he thinks that he's out because he's pretending because he's got the cotton in his ears. Cotton saved him. So
basically, slavery was a massive help.
This time,
that was a joke.
Yeah,
that was a joke.
Cotton was a massive
Sybil
help.
shaking her head terribly behind the cameras.
Cotton was the help save him this time. He knocks out the brother. He starts making his way basically just through the house. He actually fights Dad, stabs him through the chest with the deer, the deer horns.
Gone.
So now the prey animal has become the victor.
Yeah.
And has defeated its foe.
The hunter becomes the hunted.
Exactly. And vice versa. And so then he goes, and then he has to deal with Mom. She stabs him with a letter opener. He stabs her in the face with the letter opener that's still protruding through his hands. Then the brother comes back. He's about to leave. Brother comes back, knocks him, puts him in a headlock. He defeats him, and he's like, I'm out of here. He steals the car. He's driving away. He hits nothing other than we know now is Grandma. Mm-hmm. Grandma Armitage hits her, and he's like, he feels because he sees someone like him who's hurting.
Yeah.
Now that he knows what's going on, he knows
Yeah.
that there's a real person trapped inside.
Yeah.
Like the person who owned that body is trapped inside the body now. They're a prisoner of the body. And he's like, and then he has flashbacks to his mom. Like, he didn't help her. He's like, so he gets out, puts her in the car, and
That was a mistake.
Mistake. One of many.
Yeah.
Number 550.
Don't be kind. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. Trust your funny friend who apparently knows more about.
Yeah. Who, when you stopped answering your phone, decided to get in his car and drive.
Yeah, because he's a good friend.
And he's friend
like,
of the year.
There's an issue going on. Yeah, he's doing that stuff behind
Actual
the scenes.
friend of the year.
He's actually calling the cops. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
man, something's not right here. And all that's happening. That was happening before. He actually has a weird conversation with Rose because he calls his cell. Rose picks up his cell.
Yeah.
Oh, he left. She has the creepiest, dead face. She's not emoting at all, but she's talking like, oh no, like I don't know where he is, what's going on. And so he's like, yeah, dude, this is an issue, this is a problem. So he anyways, he hits grandma, puts her in the car, she wakes up, freaks out, crashes the car, and then we see Rose come out of the house with a rifle shooting at him, and then Grandpa Armitage comes and tackles him, and then as he's wrestling Chris takes his phone out, snaps a photo with a flash.
Yeah.
The real guy comes out, takes the gun from Rose, shoots her in the stomach, and then shoots himself. And then Chris is about to choke Rose out. And in a dreaded moment for me, when I was watching, I was like, "Oh no!" Because I know
something's
gonna
happen.
Horrible.
Yeah,
when
they
the
were
cops
about to
show
pull up.
this is bad, especially with the scene that was pulled up on. And luckily, it was our boy Hot Rod to save,
which was great,
and gets him the hell out of there.
But I also remember that scene and being like, "Oh fuck, it's the cops."
Yeah, we know.
There's no way it's not. And even Chris in that moment's like,
I know, because you're like, dude, he's been through so much.
on.
He's about to get out of there.
Yeah.
And then the cops show up, and you're like, no, he's literally about to die right now. And that's what I thought was
by somebody.
Yeah,
like literally any of them.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the movie. It's a wild ride, man. It's a wild ride. So much subtext, like
slow burn.
Yeah, which I found out that I love. Yeah. I made a friend the other day watch The Hateful Eight, and they did not. He did not like it. For me, the slower the burn, the better, I guess.
As long as the payoff's good, it's good.
The payoff in this movie is so good.
Yeah, it happens all at the same time.
So good. Did you have a favorite part
of the movie?
Yeah, like was there a particular like moment that just like reached out and grabbed you?
I don't think I had a particular moment. I think that like anything that can be that deliberate with everything that it does is like overall. It's like when you look at a painting, you don't look at a painting and go, "Oh, my favorite part of the painting's this one brush stroke over here." You're like, no. And as a whole, it's a really good painting,
and
that's how I feel about this.
And it's a satisfying ending. Sometimes you watch a movie and you get to then you're like,
yeah,
no,
he at least gets out.
Well, yeah, he actually does finally get out.
Yeah,
and the subtext when you rethink about everything. So going back to the beginning, Rose was trying to make sure that there was no trail that Chris was at their house. She wasn't trying to protect him from a racist cop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything that she did was
super deliberate,
super sus. When you really think about what she was doing,
yeah,
and then you're like, wow, dude.
And the fact that she was just going to continue to do it,
yeah,
like that was her whole purpose, was to continue to bring people in.
Yeah, and basically what they did is they did like a brain surgery transplant or something, or they did something,
yeah,
and that's what put the actual person into the sunken place, and then the new person who bought their new
is just experiencing it. Yeah.
Which is a crazy concept. But there's so much, like, again, talking about the racial aspect, is that you can be doing something that's racially what's the word I'm looking for? It just makes somebody uncomfortable. even though you're trying to be nice, like is what we were talking about. Is like racism isn't just like I hate you and treating you bad. It's like also just it's like, literally just treating someone different because of their race, like in that aspect. And people do it all these time these days as a way, like, oh, I'm your friend, or like
hey Jarvis, I love Korean food too.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's like
there's
no reason to. There's no reason to say it like that. It's just weird. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't.
To a lesser
breed,
extent,
like,
oh, I'm Korean. Oh my gosh, I love K-pop. Okay, I mean,
yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I actually don't love K-pop. So cool. I'm glad that you found something that you like about, my mom's culture.
Right.
Do you have some cool, interesting facts for us about this movie?
$2.5 million, $2.5 million, $4.5 million. Let me look at the thing. $4.5 million. That's how much it took to make this movie.
That's not. I mean,
it's not. That's not a lot.
No.
Yeah,
it's more than the
really
$10,000 that went into primer.
True. But a lot less than the like $250 million it takes to make any Marvel movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But grossed $255 million.
That's what they call a box office success.
Absolutely, it's like a 57 times multiple on the return.
Yeah, they made their money back 57 times. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obvious how good this movie was. And it was the directorial and writing debut for Jordan Peele.
Crazy.
Which is
when you
also
think about
nuts.
That is nuts.
And I believe, let me look and make sure. I believe that it wasn't. Yeah. It was produced by his production company.
Yeah.
Don't you wish
that you had your own production company?
I totally wish
that's
that
the dream,
I had
right?
my own production company. I totally wish I did. I really wish I had one since like 2016. Made a movie with it.
Yeah.
I have a short film coming out soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
We look forward to it.
Thank you. From what I'm seeing, his production company took care of it, but he also got help from Universal Pictures, Blumhouse, QC Entertainment, and Fuji Television Network, and Dentsu, which I'm guessing is some Japanese distributor. So it's kind of crazy, and he definitely like leveraged his active connections to do so. But like that's the dream,
Yeah,
be in a funny sketch comedy group, make a banging script.
Yeah, dude, and
get it made and blow everyone's heads off with it. That's awesome.
Shoot your career into freaking space, dude.
Yeah,
like he's freaking. Now it's like if you hear
Michael Key is Toad in the Mario movie, and he's making more psychological thrillers.
Yeah, you hear he's making a movie, you get excited about it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people didn't like Nope because they thought it was just boring and didn't have much to say.
Yeah, they didn't.
That movie was fun and
movie
very, very like butt clenchy.
Very deep. Yes, very, very.
It gave Sybil nightmares.
Yeah, I really love that movie.
It's a crazy movie.
It's great. Let me ask you this: as not the target audience, how did you feel like watching the movie? Like from your perspective.
That's a weird way to phrase it. To be honest, I didn't realize that I wasn't really the target audience.
Right, but
that makes sense.
Yeah. Because
I don't. That's what's weird. Weird to think about. I'm a film lover, so I guess I didn't think you caught me off guard with this one.
Like, I mean, were there any? Do you feel like there was anything that you watched that you were just kind of like, was there anything that stood out to you as like, ooh, like, because here's the thing, I don't think that the people that really truly understand the movie, I think, are black people. They go and they understand, they understand it on a level that we don't understand it fully. You know what I'm saying?
There's actually a really good South Park episode about this.
Yeah.
I know that's a weird thing to say, but South Park really nails it sometimes. Is when Stan is trying to talk to Tolkien about like how Stan understands how Tolkien feels.
Yeah.
About people like being racist around him because Stan's Jewish and he understands the racism thing. And Tolkien's like, you don't, but that's fine. And Stan's like, no, really, I understand it. Like, what do I need to do to prove it? And the whole episode is like him getting to the point where he's like, you know what, Tolkien, I don't think I'm ever going to understand. And he's like, that's the point, buddy.
Yeah, there it is.
That's the whole point, is that you won't ever understand, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And you just need to go into things understanding that you're not going to understand.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those movies that very like a lot of the subtext also does that.
Yeah.
Is that, hey, this isn't really for you, and that's kind of the point.
Right.
And I think that's fine.
I agree. There's not a problem with that.
And I think that is the point of the movie. It's like, let us have our thing.
Exactly.
The trauma, the like generational like abuse, all of the
subtle like dealing with. I mean, maybe not racism,
the good and the
meaning
bad.
well, but ultimately it's racism because you're
let us have our thing.
Yeah. So, but like that's the mark, I think, of a good movie, a good story, a good, like, even though you're not the target audience, you can relate to what's going on in the movie. Yeah. You understand what's happening. You may not see necessarily your involvement in those things, but you recognize it as like, hey, that's a weird thing. That's not an okay thing.
I bring this up a lot, and I took my uncle to go see Lady Bird when it was in theaters.
Right.
And he's very like, dude,
macho man.
Dude, like, I love all of the Michael Bay movies and anything that's action thriller. My favorite Christmas movie is, I don't remember, Die Hard. Thank you. And he walked out of that movie, Lady Bird, and said, man, I never thought I'd be able to like feel like I could relate to a teenage girl ever. And I went, yeah, that's like kind of the point of movies most of the time, is to learn how other people feel without actually having to experience the things they experience. Yeah. It's just seeing it from their perspective.
So then let me ask you another tough question that you may not be able to answer. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like after watching this movie that like it changed your thoughts or perspective on anything? Like, do you feel like the movie kind of opened something new for you, like regarding like, because as you're watching a movie about a specific group's mindset and struggles and things I have to, because that's what Jordan Peele said. He's like, I wanted to make a movie about what I
experienced.
What have I experienced?
Yeah. I don't know, when did this movie come out? I'm trying to figure out how old I was when it came out. That's Jordan Peele. That's not the movie. 2017. So I was like 17, 18 years old. Yeah. 18, I think. 19, something like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of when I graduated. As 19, 20, something like that. How old am I?
What is time?
Yeah. So I feel like I think I have two answers to this question. The first one is like, as a young adult, you learn a lot about the world really quick. Yeah. And I was in that like sweet spot of like just getting out of school. I feel like I could take on the world, and the world beating the absolute shit out of me. Yeah. And so it was one of those times where I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that, but not being able to think outside of myself really yet. But I will say that I experience this a lot with people around me, where they watch a movie like that. Yeah. Not specifically that, like Get Out, but I've like my dad, for instance, will watch a movie about women and be like, oh, well, they're just trying to make the point that like men are bad. Yeah. And I don't like that, so I don't like the movie. And you're like, okay, man.
That's all you got out of it then.
Right. So you're like missing the point, because you don't want to look at the movie as a whole. You're looking at yourself.
And to be honest with you, a lot of people, when they are faced with an accurate reflection of them or their gender or their whatever that you fill in the blank, they usually don't like it.
Right.
And they tend to get real defensive instead of taking an honest look and saying, man, yeah, that has a problem.
Yeah, and it's a real disservice to the piece of art that you're watching when you do that, because it's the purpose of any movie like this, or most movies in general, to the exception of like propaganda or like really badly made like political pieces, are not trying to make you feel bad about yourself.
Right.
They're trying to make a point about like
And
what life is like for somebody, or what life is like in society, or
And
in a
even-
specific part of the world.
And even though it's exaggerated by like a crazy fiction like
Yeah.
this, it's still showing an accurate portrayal of because like you don't what a lot of people don't understand is like the way that it's hard to empathize with someone who has a much different experience than you in the world. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
for me, and I think for you as well,
It's fun.
I think you understood. Well, I think you understood. Like as soon as you saw those blue and red lights, you're like, "That's bad."
Yes, yeah.
We understood.
Like,
We
even
felt
if you
that.
don't agree with the fact that you like, oh, all cops are racists against black people, it's like, you know that in that moment that's what's going to happen.
That's not good for
You
our
know that
protagonist.
the dude's actively choking out a woman.
But we also have to recognize that there were people who watched that movie that when they saw the lights, they were like, "Oh, good, the cops are here.
Right,
Everything's
right.
gonna be okay."
Or even worse, rolled their eyes because they're like, oh, they're kind of trying to turn this political.
Oh yeah. And it's like, but dude, that's one of the
the
ultimate
experience.
endings. The what we saw was that was not going to be the original ending.
Yeah.
The original ending was it was going to be a cop, and
And
Chris
he was going to get
die.
arrested, yeah.
Well,
Oh, no,
arrested
yeah,
or
yeah,
not.
yeah.
I think what he said was he was going to get arrested and then eventually like just locked away forever or and then there was a whole scene with him in prison and talking
I do remember
talking to
that,
his
yeah.
friend on the outside talking to Rod.
Rod.
On the outside, and that was going to be the original one, and then he said, "You know what? I didn't want it to end on a bad note like that."
Yeah.
And so he made the decision to make the cop car, made it Rod. And to me, chef's kiss, perfect way to end the movie. I think it was exactly what the movie needed.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the levity at the end with him and his friend, I told you not to go in that house.
Well, the tension gets really, really high, and then immediately it's like, okay, everything's fine.
and then we all can breathe that
Yeah.
sigh of relief
Which is
along
what it
with
needed.
Chris. Oh, so needed after all of that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean is it had a good and a good
Resolution.
satisfying
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah.
Ending. You know what I mean? So, but that's the thing is like, is just understanding that there's a lot of different ways to take a lot of the things that were going on in the movie,
Yeah.
but accepting them as a truth. Like, well, now it's, like the guy at the party. Oh, black is in fashion, black is in style. And it's like,
It's weird. Still weird thing to think about.
fetishizing, black culture, black community, or
Oh yeah, that is a phrase that was used a lot in the like press tours of the movie.
and that's equally
Which
as
is what-
wrong
yeah.
and bad. Like, even if you're like, oh, this is a good, like,
No, I'm not racist. I love black people.
I
Like,
really love
way too much.
like, their
Barely.
skin is my favorite. I just love it so much.
Way
I would love to
very
have
weird.
some.
One of these days, people are gonna like take the clips out of context, and I'm really gonna have to deal with it.
Man, I hope we can get to a point where our channel's like big enough that people will start to do that.
Yeah,
But we're at 100 subscribers now, so we're
it's pretty big. It's
we're
pretty big.
crushing it. I mean, I don't know.
It's a small village.
Yeah. It's
They say it takes a village.
they do. I've heard that.
More people than was at our wedding. About double, actually.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
We had a small wedding on purpose. That wasn't like we invited
Yeah.
a bunch of people. That was
I think that's the move as well. Just like the ending was the move.
the ending was the move.
Perfect ending to the story by Jordan Peele.
Yeah. Watch
Okay.
Jordan Peele movies. They're very good.
Dude, just please. And then we'll review them. We definitely are going to do some more vids for sure down the line.
Yeah.
We just kind of take this as a, we just do it. We pick our movies at random.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We actually
On
have
a
a
whim.
dartboard, and we just put a bunch of names on it, and whichever one it hits, that's where we go.
Yeah. It's actually so random that we don't actually throw the darts. We actually find somebody on the street to throw the dart at the board for us. That's how random it is. We won't even do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So, but overall, man, I got to say, this is a movie. Now, you know what I was thinking today as well? Instead of like giving a rating, like I want to start doing like, don't watch, rewatchable. And I think that's kind of like,
Okay.
and then like, I don't know, maybe own it. You know what I mean? Buy it.
Yeah.
For me, dude, I would say buy this movie. Get all the behind the scenes, all the interviews, all the director's commentaries. This is a movie you need to own. Which I think you do, right?
I do, and I have the script as a book on the shelf.
There you have it.
Yeah. I would also say buy the movie, but also in general, I'm getting on my soapbox real quick. Buy movies for two reasons. Number one, it supports the people more directly than streaming it does, and number two, streaming companies can just take movies off at any point in time. If you buy, I've bought movies on like iTunes before that get taken off just because, and I've also had seen people like get the rights to streaming a movie, and then they just disappear off the face of the earth forever. So buy movies. Maybe rip a version of it for your computer just in case something happens to it.
Yeah.
You know, that is legal, by the way, if you own it. Like
Yeah.
if you have bought it before, you're allowed to do that. So yeah, buy movies. It's very, very important. Honestly,
Buy this
probably
movie.
would save you some money on streaming services if you just bought the movies anyway, depending on the movie.
Yeah, and like you said, it's good to be able to like fully explore the depths of like, especially a movie like this.
Yeah.
You want to know the detail. You want to know what he was thinking. You want
Yeah.
to know.
You would love that book, not for reading purposes, but the fact that like it has the entire script, screenshots from the movie,
Yeah.
and then little annotated notes where you can flip to the back of the book to see
does.
like what the purpose of the things in the movie were for.
Yeah, and there's so
It's
much,
really
like we
cool.
said, there's so much subtext and there's so much like, I mean, it's just worth investigating and seeing all the intentional things that were put in there. Like Jordan Peele said that them arriving in the black cars, that was on purpose. And like, you know, there's just so many things that you may have missed.
Yeah.
Are very intentional.
Yeah.
Very intentional. So, I mean, I think this is the end of it. Unless you got something else you want to say, but like, I can't say enough good things about this movie. This is one of those movies that like, it's so good that I don't think that I could think of a way to improve it in any way. Like, it's just a
good
near-perfect
movie. Yeah, it's just a really good movie.
Yeah. My goodness. What a great movie. What a great episode. Thank you for being here with us. Do you want to express some thanks?
No.
All right, there you have it. Screw you guys. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll thank you if you subscribe. I'll write you a letter of recommendation for a job that you need so badly. I'll do it.
Yeah, it gets tough out there, so you're going to need that.
Yeah,
You're
so
gonna need that
subscribe.
recommendation. Like and subscribe, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us again.
Put a comment about how I am wrong about my opinion, and I'm just kissing up to Jordan Peele because I have some liberal agenda. In the comments, do that.
And if you're Jordan Peele and you happen to see this, please reach out to us.
If you're Jordan Peele, especially put that in the comments,
dude, because we freaking love you, and I can tell you,
so funny.
I mean, we'll scrape together whatever measly amount of money we can come up with. To
I'll
get
buy
the
you a
movie.
plane ticket.
Dude. I will freaking.
It might be Spirit Airlines, but that's just because times are tough. You know what I'm saying?
I will cook you. I will cook you some Korean food or something.
Yeah,
like,
that you'll love because you love Koreans, as we expressed in this movie.
Yes.
It's
And we
review.
love you, man, dude. Seriously, you're amazing. And if you ever see this, like, come on our podcast, please. But anyways, thanks for hanging out with us. It really means a lot to us that you watch and that you liked and subscribed. So if you haven't liked or subscribed, please consider doing so. We would greatly appreciate it. We love talking about movies. We love to hear what you thought about Get Out, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it, whether when the cop showed up you were happy or sad. Or
Out yourself in the comments, please.
Yeah.
I really want you to out yourself in the comments.
Yeah, and also remember that I did not high five for whiteness. Let's remember that. Nope, not gonna do it. Guys, thanks for hanging out. We hope your day is everything you dreamed of being more, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Sup? You know, you'd look cooler if you'd subscribed.
Your dad wouldn't be so disappointed in you if you subscribed.
Your friends would do it. Aren't you like them? Don't you want to be like your friends? Your friends would do it. Nah, you're too much of a wimp anyway.
Yeah,
You could watch a couple other videos though, if you were cool.
Yeah, you won't though. Should.